Mallaig.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen.
No.
Sunshine and blue skies when we arrived.
Clouded over now.
I had to put my shorts on, that's probably why it has clouded over.
But we needed to get some gas. We sort of needed to get some water. We were sort of beginning to need a shower.
Ooh, yeah.
We're a little bit in awe of the weather forecasting. 2 days ago, I looked at the wind and it indicated that it'd be blowing at about 23, 24 knots up until around about 4 or 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. It is 4 or 5 o'clock on Saturday evening and it switched off almost as if somebody had thrown a switch, pulled a plug, something like that. So very much impressed by the windy meteorological models, and ideally it will be ideal for us tomorrow when we leave. But we're just going to go for a little stroll ashore, and it's
I think
very
we might have a pint.
but it's very nice not to be battling.
Now we're battling with the midges.
Yeah, are they here?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh well. It never rains but it pours. No, that's not quite true. Yeah, so really impressed with the weather forecasting using windy. Yeah, very good indeed. Exactly spot on, even 36 hours out. Well done them. The cruising instructions for Loch Boisdale talk about the anchorage being a little bit foul. It's not much used now, but it's fair to say it's no longer foul. This was all on the back of a vessel in the harbour that had been lifted up. I don't know if you can see there's a huge anchor in there, but there's also a little portable generator, all safely removed. We visited a very lovely museum at Kildonnan, and one of the things that struck me was this map of ferries and train connections and so forth, and just how many there are. This was a company called McBrain, obviously the precursor of Caledonian McBrain, but very, very large number of ferries running between the islands. We'd had a nice time in Loch Boisdale and met a number of people who were similarly trapped like us. Nice sunset over the harbour itself on the last day, but it was very much time to get ready to make a move. It was surprisingly breezy in the harbour, but when we got out there was probably 12 knots of breeze from almost exactly due south, maybe a tiny bit of east in that. But our original plan of heading down towards Castle Bay looked harder work than it needed to be, and Elizabeth looked at me and said we could always go for Canna because we appear to be laying exactly the right course for that. So we took that as a bit of a message from the gods and headed off. And as you can see from here, we were a little bit under canvas. I still had the heavy weather jib on, just didn't change it up because we were expecting a bit of breeze. And as it happens, the breeze did come in. It got up to about 20 knots, and there's a couple of people have commented, and I've sailed with normal slab reefing and this single line reefing as well. I must admit I can see pros and cons of both. The disadvantages of this, as you'll see in a moment, is every now and again you just have to go up to the mast and come back. And the other disadvantage is there is an awful lot of rope involved. This is me then taking up the second reef out the way, and when the third is rigged there's even more. But actually I really quite like the fact that from within the confines of the cockpit you can do the whole thing. And so that bit of breeze only came in for a little while. I was able to then shake it out. One of the disadvantages is all that rope that you had to get rid of in the first place you then need to shake out, and I can do that just by pulling in a little bit on the main in order to get it out. But it could all be done from within the cockpit, and I like that over the hooking on at the mast. But it is horses for courses, it is fair to say. I don't know if it was the sunshine, but we were blessed with whole pile of dolphins, very playful ones. As we headed towards Canna, you can see Canna in the distance, and the ferry was there as well. And as we got closer in, the wind started to die off. At this point, I really did wish that I'd had a larger head sail on. But it was very lovely sailing quite close in to the north coast of Canna. The seabirds and the dolphins continued to play around the boat almost all the way in, and we got into the harbour around about 5 o'clock.
Here we are on the beautiful island of Canna in the Western Isles. I think they're known as the Small Isles, aren't they?
Yeah. we visited Muck on our way up, but then we wanted to get into Loch Boisdale, so we missed out the others. But we're now doing them as we head south. We left Loch Boisdale having been locked up there for 4 days, and it was the perfect place to be in the weather, but as we came out the wind was blowing from the south, and we'd originally intended to head towards Castle Bay, and we just thought, actually with this wind, why don't we have a pop at the relatively short journey, Loch Boisdale to Canna, and it was champagne sailing all the way. Arrived last night, been ashore this morning for a nice stroll and something nice to eat.
Fabulous lunch at the Canna Cafe.
Yeah, just terrific.
It really is a very pretty place. There's a church just by the harbour, and over there to the left you could just see another church, and this stack on the south side absolutely full of puffins, as is this slightly larger stack. But we then were able to go for a couple of walks. As you can see, the sea had died right down. Very lovely bays and a few people at anchor. We went for a walk right up to the top of the hill, and this is a sort of 2,000-year-old, somewhat enigmatic set of caves, man-made, right at the top of the island. But the harbour itself, fairly busy, big changeover of people, but all very lovely. One thing I would say about Canna is they really do have themselves sorted out. They've got this very lovely open 24/7 shop, all run on an honesty basis, very well stocked, and then just next door the cafe that we ate at, very pleasant. We've been very light on internet connection for the last few days, and so I've been, when we get a chance, just grabbing the synoptic charts and stitching them together in order to have a bit of a go at doing my own weather forecasting, which is working okay. But it was then time to depart from Canna. Very different look, this island, to either the others in the Small Isles or particularly the Outer Hebrides.
Well, that was Canna.
Well, as you can see, the skies are quite dark and foreboding.
But there's not much wind.
Not much wind.
Tootling along at 3 knots.
Yeah.
Then behind us is Canna. And would you put this at the top or the bottom of your must-visit list?
Yeah, definitely at the top. It can be a bit busy, definitely. It's,
Yeah, the anchorage was busy all the time we were here, and that may be the fact that we've now crashed into Scottish school holiday time.
but this is quite a popular cruising ground for people who have only got 2 weeks.
Yeah, and there's, Hebridean cruisers were in, a couple of the toll ships were in.
Falmouth, yeah.
The boat we saw in Falmouth is up here, obviously, cruising the Western Isles. So we're in good company.
Yeah.
Well,
Onwards, as I like to say.
I was expecting the wind to be in the north a couple of days ago, and from the weather forecast last night it was going to be northwest, which gives us a chance to get back to Skye, which I wasn't sure that we were going to be thwarted by the wind, but
We thought we'd take the opportunity.
let's take that opportunity.
It was a very light breeze, but it was in the right sort of direction for us to head back over towards Skye. I must admit the clouds over the island did give me slight cause for concern, leaving the sunshine as we were. But the pilot book talks about this as a must-go-to anchorage.
We've just arrived.
Just arrived. Loch Scavaig, apparently one of the must-do anchorages in Europe. And notwithstanding the fact that it is a little bit wet, it is really rather spectacular. You can see Corrick there wearing its umbrella. It's got its little hood up underneath the waterfall, and we're going to just go for a little stroll ashore.
Before it tips down with rain again.
Yeah, it's wet where we are. It's dry a mile
where
offshore
we've come from.
where we've come from. But hey ho, there we go.
When the rain stopped, it really was a very spectacular anchorage. The pictures don't really do it justice. The rocks are enormously dark, the grass is very green, the waterfall thundered down, particularly during the rain. The clouds over the top were foreboding indeed. That night, and indeed first thing this morning, all the boats in the anchorage, you can see people just getting up on deck and just taking in the scene of this really rather spectacular, very natural harbour, really quite shallow. We were anchored in 2 metres of water. It was neaps at the moment, so we had 4 under us the whole time, but very sheltered, very still, both the evening before and in the morning. All the same, there was the clouds heading over the top, moving at a reasonable speed, despite the fact that we were, it seemed to me to be completely sheltered. We were absolutely right over the top of our anchor where we dropped it the night before. Very lovely, highly recommended.
Well, Elizabeth, what did you think of Loch Scavaig?
I'm glad we went there. It's something I've never really experienced before. It was quite dramatic. It was a shame that there were so many yachts, but I think at this time of the year...
And so much rain.
And rain. But see rain as not getting wet, but it's part of our weather system. I'm trying to learn bowling upside down because I put a tripping line on it, it came off.
Oops.
The anchor. That's why.
As we cleared down to the south, away from Skye, the clouds disappeared, nice light breeze, and we made our way almost due south down to the Point of Sleat, or Point of Slate I think it's pronounced. Very lovely sailing. Again, I wish I'd changed up the head sail, but it was all very pleasant nonetheless.
Instead of, for the last 3 months, we've known exactly which direction we needed to go, and it was a question of, we want to go north, is the weather going to let us, and where can we easily get to? And now, actually, and it's taking a bit of time to get used to it, where's the weather, where would we like to go?
So I'm in charge of tour directing. I am the tour director. So I've got, I'm going to spend the next day or so having a look at places to go of interest and any anchorages that would be
Worth doing. A bit like going to Loch Scavaig, which we did on the fly yesterday.
And I'm so glad we did.
So glad we did. So it's been a busy week. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much for watching.